The Sacramento Kings have pretty much been the laughingstock of the NBA for a while now, and this is coming from a Kings fan. They've made some terrible draft selections in the past few years, like Thomas Robinson, Jimmer Fredette, Ben McLemore, Nick Stauskas, and most recently Yorgos Papagiannis. So why are we asking if the Kings, the most incompetent organization in the NBA, will be a future super team? Why is that even a question? Well, actually, right now the Kings have a lot of young players on their roster, and a lot of them are really promising. No one seems to believe that more than general manager Vlade Divac, who, after they drafted Marvin Bagley, called them a super team just young. Now that's gotten Kings fans excited, and the hype is felt around the Sacramento area. So what we're going to do in this video is take a look at the Kings roster and young players, and talk about who I think is going to be a part of their future going forward. The first person we're going to talk about is Willie CauleyStein. Willie CauleyStein was the 6th pick of the 2015 draft. He's 24 years old, and this season is a make or break season for him. It's going to be a contract year, so he's going to probably go all out to try to get the best stats he can get to get a good contract. The thing is, I don't think the Kings should give him that big contract. Thus far in his career, he hasn't exceeded any expectations, and he hasn't even really lived up to them. He was supposed to be a good interior defender and rebounder coming into the league, and so far he's really been anything but that. He tries to work on his offensive game too much. He said he wants to be like Kristaps Porzingis, but that's just not who the Kings drafted him to be. He's a terrible rebounder, even though he's 7 foot and has elite quickness for a center. If Willie CauleyStein wants to be part of the Kings' future going forward, he needs to hustle on the boards and stop trying to do too much on offense. I think playing backup to DeMarcus Cousins for so many years probably influenced him on that. Well, 2 years, but you know what I mean. The next guy we're going to talk about is Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield was the 6th pick of the 2016 draft. He was actually drafted by the Hornets, but traded to the Kings as the centerpiece of the DeMarcus Cousins trade. Now, I think Buddy Hield is a good player, but I don't think he's the next Steph Curry like Vivek Ranadivé said he was. He's a great three-point shooter, and he can catch fire pretty quickly. His dribbling is pretty bad, although he has improved a little bit since his rookie season. He also improved his defense, and towards the end of the season, he even looked like a good playmaker. Now, the problem with him is he's already 24 years old, but he seems like a really hard worker, and he's shown lots of signs of improvement, so there's no reason to think that he couldn't take his game to a whole nother level. Now, I don't think he's going to be an all-star type player, but I think his ceiling is a really good 6-man on a good team. Let's just hope the Kings can become that good team. The next guy we're going to talk about is Skal Labissiere. Skal Labissiere was the 28th pick of the 2016 draft. He had a lot of potential coming into the draft, but he was going to be a project. He was the number 1 ranked player in high school at one point, but I guess he performed pretty bad in college, so his draft stock fell by a lot. Skal spent some time bouncing between the D-League and the NBA in his first season, but he showed flashes of potential. Sometimes he looked dominant, like in his game where he had 29 points against the Suns. Well, I mean, it was the Suns, but still, you gotta give him credit for that. The thing is, in his second season, it almost seems like his skill set has dropped off a bit. He could barely crack the rotation, and when he got the ball, it's almost like he didn't know what to do with it. And he's still way too weak to guard NBA centers, or even some power forwards. Now, Skal Labissiere was going to take a long time to get good, and I think he could end up being a decent NBA player. But I can't see him being a big part of the Kings' future because of the 2 big men that they recently acquired that we're going to talk about later. Now we're going to talk about Frank Mason. There's not much to talk about here, honestly. He showed some flashes of being a decent backup point guard last season. He was a tough player, and he hustled a lot. But the thing with him is, he's kind of out of control on drives. He shot the worst percentage in the league at the rim last season. I know a lot of that's because of his height, but still, that's pretty much inexcusable. Now, he's a decent three-point shooter and a pretty good defender for someone his size, but he played terrible in Summer League this year. I know Summer League isn't supposed to mean much, but Frank Mason is 24 years old and he's a second-year point guard. He just could not create plays for others, and when he was the point guard, the offense was just painful to watch. Kinda like this video. Anyways, I don't even think Frank Mason will be the Kings' backup point guard anymore, now that they signed Yogi Ferrell, who's around his age and he's a lot better player, trust me. Now we get to talk about Justin Jackson. Justin Jackson was the 5th pick of the 2017 draft. He played 3 seasons at North Carolina, so he was supposed to be decently NBA ready. He was kind of a disappointment in his rookie season. He reminded me of Ben McLemore in that he was kind of invisible at times. He wasn't able to shoot the 3 ball like he was supposed to, and he just seemed passive at a lot of points during his rookie season. Now, he was a lot more aggressive in Summer League recently. He scored really well, and I think he even had a 26-point game in there. I think Justin Jackson will be with the Kings for a while, if only because they literally don't have another small forward on the roster. I think Justin Jackson can be a solid role player in the NBA, but probably nothing special. Now we get to talk about Bogdan Bogdanovich. He had an impressive rookie campaign. He was a great 3-point shooter, and he had a lot of clutch moments. He was a good passer, a smart defender, and he was capable of playing the 1 through 3. He won the Rising Stars game MVP, and he hit a lot of ridiculously long 3-pointers. He played like a 5-year veteran, and that's because he pretty much was. He played 5 years in the EuroLeague and came into the NBA at age 25. So, even though he's off to a really good start, he does not have the potential of someone like Luka Doncic. I think Bogdan Bogdanovich has about 3 years to get better, but I don't think he'll be that much better than what he already is. But that's okay, because what he is right now is a really good quality starter. Now we get to talk about my favorite player in the league, De'Aaron Fox. I know this is going to be a little bit biased since I just said he's my favorite player in the league, but I think he has a great future ahead of him. I've been a big De'Aaron Fox fan ever since he destroyed Lonzo Ball in UCLA in that one game in the Sweet 16, I think it was. Now, his rookie season wasn't incredible, I'll give you that, but he showed plenty of flashes of future stardom. The first thing you'll notice about De'Aaron Fox when you watch him is his insane speed. He's got to be at least the 3rd quickest guy in the NBA, behind only John Wall and Russell Westbrook. There were a couple times in his rookie season where he'd get the ball off of an inbound, and then run all the way to the other end of the court and dunk it in about 3 seconds. De'Aaron Fox also has insane hops. I know Dennis Smith Jr. gets all the attention for his athleticism, but De'Aaron Fox really isn't very far behind. Just watch Fox's game-winning putback dunk he had over the Miami Heat, and you'll know what I'm talking about. And that brings me to my next point. De'Aaron Fox is ridiculously clutch. It seemed like half of the Kings' wins last season came from a De'Aaron Fox game winner. Fox shot 86% in close game situations last season. For comparison, the rest of the rookies combined to shoot 28% in those same situations. The man lives for big moments. Now, his jumper does need some improvement, but it's really not as bad as people make it seem like. He had a game against the Spurs where he was 6 for 6 from 3, and his 3-pointer is way farther along than John Wall's was at the same stage of his career. Now, De'Aaron Fox didn't really average that many assists last season, but a big part of that is the fact that the Kings' offense was 50% Zach Randolph post-ups and isolations last season. And that's going to change next year now that the Kings have a lot of young big men who are fast and fit De'Aaron Fox's playing style a lot better. He's going to improve, and in a few years, I think he'll be an all-star level point guard. Now we're going to talk about Harry Giles. Harry Giles was projected to be the number 1 pick of the 2017 draft, that is, before he tore both of his ACLs and performed pretty bad in college. He was able to fall all the way to the Kings, who had the 20th pick in the draft. And if he's healthy, he's going to be a steal. The Kings played it safe and sat him out his entire first season, so he's technically a rookie this year. He played pretty well in Summer League. Sometimes he made some bad decisions, but that's to be expected of someone who hasn't really played competitive basketball in almost 2 years. He showed really good passing vision for a big man, and although he didn't always make the best decisions, he still had some great passes in Summer League. He also showed a way better mid-range jumper than I expected him to have. The thing that impressed me the most was the intensity with which he played. He was pretty much involved in every play on defense, and he had so many deflections. He's actually really similar to a young Kevin Garnett, and while I don't think he's going to be that good, if he can get anywhere close to as good as KG, it'll be a big win for the Kings. Finally, we're going to talk about Marvin Bagley. Marvin Bagley absolutely has to pan out for the Kings to have any chance of being a good team in the future. The Kings picked him 2nd overall in this most recent draft, and I'll go on record saying I would have preferred them to pick Luka Doncic, but I really hope Marvin Bagley proves me wrong. He has a lot of potential, and I think Bagley has a chance at being a future star. He was a monster at Duke, but I'm really not sure how much his dominance will translate to the NBA. He possesses otherworldly athleticism, but at the same time, he doesn't seem like he has the strength necessary to take on NBA forwards, let alone centers. He seems pretty hesitant to post up, and that's probably because he's so left-hand dominant and has no right-hand finishing ability. But he should be a good rebounder right off the bat. And honestly, I think all this concern over his defensive struggles were a little bit overblown. During the Summer League, it looked like he was trying really hard on defense, and he got a lot of blocks too. Now his jumper doesn't look very promising so far. He only shot 1 for 10 from 3 in Summer League, and that's a small sample size, but still, it got pretty ugly. He airballed like 3 mid-range attempts in a row one game. Then again, don't put too much importance on Summer League games. Last year, Alex Caruso looked like the best player on the floor in Summer League, and he's barely an NBA player. So, in the end, the Kings have a lot of young talent, and I think if they can keep this core together, they have a chance at being a really good team in the future. Pretty much everything will have to go right for them to become a super team, but who knows? 5 years ago, no one would have thought the Warriors would be as good as they are now. At the least, this Kings team should be able to make the playoffs in a couple of years. Hopefully it's soon though, because for us Kings fans, it's been a long wait.